Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everybody joining us today. I'm your host, as usual, Samar Kamal, the VP of Marketing at Mine. And let me share my screen. Today, we have a very exciting webinar for you, all about data mapping. I know it's a very trending topic. A lot of folks really speak about it differently, depending on the context. So we really thought to bring in an expert, a customer of ours, to speak to you about their experience, how they've done it, and to really make it as educational as possible. So with me today, I'm honored to really have one of my favorite customers at Mine, Victoria Vlahoyiannis. Hi, Victoria.
Hello, happy to be here.
Very good, thank you. And as usual, my partner in crime, Kobi Nissan, the product officer and co-founder
Hi,
at
everyone.
Mine. Hi, Kobi. Very good. So today, the agenda, we'll hear all about it, from Victoria. We'll talk about her experience, the background and what she's done. Zyte is a global company. Data mapping is really a topic that is referred to differently depending on the geographies and the data regulations that comes with it. And as usual, we'll hear about the latest and greatest from Kobi. Hopefully, we'll have enough time for a demo. And we want to take all your questions. So feel free to drop them in the comment section to your right, and we'll take them hopefully as they come in. Before really jumping into a lot of this, a small announcement that we've done, earlier in the week. As you all know, our B2B, the company offering, and what you all use is referred to as Mine Privacy Ops. And we've done a little bit of a rebranding this week, and we've changed the name to MineOS. As everybody knows, OS, it's as we refer to it in our tagline, Mine is the digital operating system for data privacy, data governance, and compliance. And as the tagline refers to, as the product continued to grow and our vision matured, we felt that we are really outgrowing what privacy ops is referred to, and we're entering and we're building features and capabilities that are really beyond that. And so we felt like that we deserve a better name, if you will. We will talk more about this. We will hear from our three founders on another webinar on April 27. We'll be happy to take all your questions. We'll talk about our company offering and MineOS, but we'll also talk about our origins and the app that continues to exist and change consumers' lives, controlling their digital footprint, and the Mine app. So please feel free, be on the lookout for more information on our social media for that webinar and registration to it. We'll also talk about, some of the new announcements and a main product announcement that we've done with MineOS team feedback. Privacy is really what we refer to it here is a team sport game, and it's really better played with team and better collaboration. And so Kobi will jump into it and we'll talk about how you do collaboration within the tool and many other new features. All right, let's kick it off. Victoria, if you could please, give us a little bit of background about, your experience and a little bit about Zyte for people not familiar.
Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Vlahoyiannis. I am a California lawyer, so I used to specialize in big law with corporate entities in San Francisco, so a lot of, different tech companies, and also in finance. And then I moved to Europe. So then I was looking for a more global company, a more remote company, and that's where Zyte came into play. And as I started working for Zyte, I got certified in privacy in Europe. I'm planning on getting certified in the US. So it's really become a big part of my life. And Zyte itself, we have two different services. We have kind of our SaaS offering, our SaaS platform, where we provide tools, most famously our open source Scrapy, where you can go get data off the web. And then we also have a more white-gloved managed service where you can tell us what website you want us to go to, what data you need, and we'll help you from end to end providing that. So a lot of my job is, the privacy field, making sure that we are compliant and respectful in the way we scrape the data, making sure if there's any copyrighted information that we review that, any personal information that's compliant with the GDPR. And then another big aspect of my job is our vendor management. So I had our vendor management team and procurement, and that's where Mine has really been a game changer for me.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Victoria. Let's dive into it. You mentioned that, yeah, you moved, to Europe. Zyte is very global. If you could maybe start at the beginning, tell us what you think. How would you define data mapping?
I think data mapping is just knowing where your data is. So it's kind of like a forensic experiment of going and figuring out where you're storing your data, where your vendors are storing your data, how you can access it, how you can delete it. And it really depends on the level of your company at the time. So Zyte's been around for 10 years. And we've kind of been bootstrapped from the beginning, in startup mode. And so we onboarded certain vendors. Now we're much more sophisticated and we're getting bigger vendors, but we still need to figure out, what our path was, where our data is, not only ours that we store, but also our customers. So I think any customer facing business needs to be able to say where you're keeping your data. So which vendors, which countries, which systems, and you really need that in this day and age if you're a global company, because you need to be compliant with all the different laws. So we're based in Europe, so we have the GDPR, but we also do business in the US and around the world. So depending on where you are, you need to be really mindful of the regulations, and not only where you are, but where your customers are is a big deal as well now.
Yeah, makes sense. And it sounds like, Zyte is a company that handles a lot of data, different geographies. So can we dive into a little bit of how does it matter? You have on your slide GDPR and CCPA, depending on the geographies that you operate in. How does data mapping really differ in these different regulations and geographies?
Yeah, so in the GDPR, as a processor, controller, whatever you consider yourself as, it's different for every company, you have a lot of responsibilities. And so for us, like I said, we're based in Ireland, so we cover the GDPR that way. But even if you're a company that's not in the EU, if you're processing personal data of consumers, of customers in the EU, which most companies on a global scale do, you have to make sure you have processes in place. So you need to have a record of processing activities, which means you need to know what data you're processing as a controller and what data you're processing as a processor. So whether that's for your customers, whether that's your data, you need to know what vendors you have. You need to know the transfer mechanism. So if you're in the EU and your vendors in the EU, it's going to be different than if you're in the EU and you have a vendor in the US. You need to have standard contractual clauses, but you can't even understand the legal implications until you know where the vendors are and what data they hold. So you need to be able to have that RoPA, is what we call it. And then also the data subjects under the GDPR have a lot of rights. They can ask to erase their data. They can ask to get a copy of their data, rectify it. They're also able to ask to transition to another vendor. And again, if you're going to comply with those requests, the first step is what system do I need to go into to erase that? Where do I store all this data? Is it just Salesforce, or is it in my email? Do I have all these other miscellaneous kind of vendors that are reading it? And then you also have to make sure that it's secure. So, you have to delve even deeper into your vendors and make sure that you have what are called technical and security measures in place so that that data that you're putting into a vendor system is safe. So you have to do some due diligence to understand that. And that's, we most people see the GDPR as the strictest, but then now we're getting a lot of state laws as well. There's not yet a US wide regulation. I think a lot of people in the privacy field would really enjoy that. So we don't have to go, state by state. Right now, there's only about 4 states that have it, starting with California. But if more and more come, it's going to be a little messy to try to figure out. The main difference is that in the EU, it's all opt-in. So you have to consent, you have to have a lawful basis. It's a lot easier in California in that it's opt-out. So you have to have those do not sell pages. Similar to the rights under the GDPR, they can ask not to have their data sold, to have it deleted. But then there's also a different element to the CCPA where you can be a business, a service provider, or a third party. And you really have to know, again, who your vendors are, what agreements you have in place to understand what data you're allowed to have, what you need to delete. And then also now in the new regulations and amendments to the CCPA that came in January, you also need to put retention notices in your privacy policy, which is something new. We haven't seen that under the GDPR. Obviously, you've always had to have a privacy policy, but now you need to either say, okay, I store it in this system for this amount of time, or if you don't have a set retention policy, how you choose to delete it. And you really need to dive into where your data is to understand that and kind of get into your vendors, understand their different possibilities. And in general, that's just for a more mature company. And even if you are a startup trying to go through due diligence to get acquired or to raise money, they're going to ask you these questions like, where is all your data? Who are your vendors? How sophisticated are your vendors? And then a lot of your customers may want you to get different security certifications like ISO, SOC 2. All of this, all the data mapping is like fundamental to that. You really can't proceed until you know who your vendors are, where's your data, what are their security mechanisms. It's like, the very foundation of moving forward.
Yeah, it does sound like a lot. We really refer to it as step zero, if you will, before getting into your program. It's the essential piece that you have to do. Great. So, Victoria, you use Mine, for data mapping. Can we get a little bit in that step zero? How do you go about, building data mapping using Mine?
So before Mine, it was a headache. It was all manual, and that was really
I love it. Step -1 even.
Yeah, exactly. It was just building, an Excel sheet and going through. And the hard part of that was, you really had to trust the understanding of different people within the company of, well, what vendors are you using and what data is there? But you had to trust their word, and not that they're not trustworthy, but they might forget and might not have the full piece of the puzzle. So you had to talk to so many people. And the game changer with Mine was that we were able to, search our Google, search our history going back to the beginning of when we had Gmail accounts in the beginning of our company, and see what vendors have we signed up for, who's used it, how many people are using it, and really delve in and ask them those questions of, when did you use this? How long are you using it for? What are we storing there? And then having that automated radar, so to speak, checking to see what we're signing up for. And that helps not only retrospectively, but a lot of my day-to-day job is onboarding new vendors and understanding, what the company needs, and being able to see that picture, what the trials look like and what they're looking at, and having it all in one place for both the DSARs and for the RoPA. RoPA is really important because I might need to put, that we're processing something on a RoPA, and then we get a DSAR request in, and I have to go delete it from that place or understand, what data is in there. So it's really been amazing because now while it's a lot of work for me to have to be in the system, it's a lot more guaranteed that we're getting it correct. And, I don't need to be going and tapping, people in product, delivery, IT. I can go see it myself and really trust the report that Mine is giving me.
Love it. You talked a lot about, the collaboration part. And then there's the part that you refer to as the radar, where you get a little bit of automation, if you will. So how do you know, Victoria, you as the lead of doing all these tasks, when to rely on automation and when to actually go and check on things and the team and do some of the manual steps?
Yeah, I think it's a line, it's at a comfort level that everybody needs to be comfortable with, depending on the size of the legal team, the time you have, and how sensitive the data is. For us, we're really using the automation for the searching feature. Like I said, we did not have one single source of truth for company-wide what vendors were used, and now we're able to have that rather than this team has this vendors, this team has these vendors. But we do kind of go in depending on the sensitive nature of the vendor and talk to the different employees. So we're able to see with Mine, how many people are using it. And then I go and talk to those people and understand, what are you using this for? Are you still using it? Because sometimes it's something they trialed. And it's also even able to help with budgeting because maybe they forgot they signed up for it and you've been paying for it. And now, you can go see those people directly and know who's using it and ask them, is this something we can cancel? Can we, cut costs here? But yeah, I would say it's a mix of both. It's a mix of relying on Mine and helping that kind of jumpstart everything. So even for the processing activities, things like that, I still go in and manually check and have those discussions to understand, okay, is there financial data there? Is it just name, username, or is it all anonymized? But it's really helpful to have Mine's kind of suggestions of what may be in there so that I'm not going in blind. I think that's the main thing now. So I'm never going into any situation blind. I'm going in powered by data, which for a data company is a big deal.
Right. Yeah. I love it. Congratulations really on taking that step. And yeah, I know that Zyte is growing very quickly and it's, you have a bulk of the tasks to make sure that they're ready for that growth. Congrats.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the advice that you would have, for folks in that, consideration, staff looking for solutions, Victoria.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, first of all, understand where you are where your customers are geographically, to understand the different regulations that will be in place. Because like I said, if you're based in the EU, you kind of have to follow the GDPR regardless. But if you're in the US, it really depends what state you're in and what state you're marketing your services to. So do you have consumers from California, Virginia, Utah? Are they using your services, or are you really just in one state? And then you have to understand it from there. And then after that, you understand your different compliance regulations. But like I said, even if you're in none of the states that have these regulations and you're not in Europe, you still need this to grow. For, like I said, for diligence, that used to be I worked in, I was doing, venture capital deals like that. And they needed to look at all these contracts. So you still need this in place. But I think you need to understand where you are, what your plan is. So are you trying to grow? Are you going for ISO? Are you trying to go global? And then understand your pain points. So like I said, for us, our pain point really was everything was spread out. We didn't have one source of truth. Honestly, we didn't know the level of automation that Mine was going to bring. Our mind was like blown when we were shown. We're like, there's no way you know this. There's no way this works so well. And it has, but maybe that's not your pain point. Maybe your pain point is you know where things are, you understand what's in there, in which case Mine can help you in that too. But you really have to kind of map out what your plans are and what you need to focus on. Because maybe you don't have any DSARs, but you do have, your record of crossing activities you have to do, or you need to understand, just the bare minimum of what you can transfer and when. It's just understanding that and mapping that out. And that can be, one person operation, one person legal, where you're also the founder, or it can be a 10-person legal team. No matter what stage you're at, this is going to apply at some point. It's just understanding at what point, and then you can plan, your budgeting, you can plan your time and energy into how you want to map that out.
Very good. Very good. And thank you for the kind words. Very humbling of you, Victoria. Thank you so much.
I love you guys. I love you guys.
We love you too. Thank you, Victoria. I love that, Kobi, Victoria touched so much on collaboration and working with different teams and going online and offline, if you will. I know that you'll speak a little, tons about that new feature and the collaboration part, but maybe you could give, the team a little bit of a quick overview of the MineOS platform.
Yes, of course. So, essentially, this is kind of the overall high-level picture of the MineOS product pillars. Usually, we are talking about automations and how we make magic with the Mine AI and the discovery tools and so on and so forth. I think Victoria, really emphasized on that today. So thank you for that. Essentially, if we look at the main modules, we have the data mapping, the DSR handling, and the consent management. DSR and consent management both are the client-facing modules. Collecting requests in multiple channels, allowing customers to reach out and really automate the process with integrations. And data mapping, basically, the first two pillars of knowing where your data is. Those are the green pillars. Really identifying also retrospectively all the data systems that the organization might have and classifying the data that you have inside, and then apply the compliance report, might be RoPA, DPIA, data transfer, and so on and so forth. But what we really want to focus here today is not on the automation. We spent lots of time on other webinars, and we will keep on doing that. But we want to talk about collaborations and decision-making. And I want to touch upon Victoria's pain points as she described before. We hear it from lots of clients. Even when you've identified the data and we solve the automation problem, let's imagine that this is behind us. You still need to collaborate with the organization. You have found some piece of information. You have found some data system that potentially have data inside of it, and you have lots of employees connected. You need to still document your decision. You need to review it with the business side, understand what they do with it, and then bring it back home and really document it. So this is on the data sources discovery, what is in use, what is out of use. If you go to the next slide, it's all across. So if we have already the data system in place and we talk about data classification, and let's imagine that we classify the data and all of a sudden we have identified emails, names, social security numbers, credit cards. How do you know what should be there and what should not be there? You still need to collaborate with the business, understand what is the decision that needs to be made and documented. If we move on to the next slide, we will see that it's coming across the processing activities and building your RoPA. You set up the RoPA, and you still need to understand what is the business logic behind it in order to justify the processing of this data. If we go to the next one, you will see again when we run the DPIA, how do you assess the risk? Still need to collaborate with people in the business, with the security team for external breach, with others for internal breach risk, or with the data science for data misclassification. If we go to the last one, we'll also see that it's how do you determine the data flow. So the point that I'm trying to make is that decision making and collaboration with the business is an imperative part within the entire privacy program. What we learned from our clients is that it is really difficult to keep track of those decision making and document it properly. So we wanted to really put on top of the platform, add another feature, another set of module, another set of tools that you can collaborate with the business from within the tool, and everything is documented in. And that's what we wanted to share here today and to announce. That's the teammate review. I'll try to share my screen real quick. I think seeing it is will make a whole lot of difference. Everybody can see my screen. Summer, Victoria.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
So,
the Mind Privacy Ops platform. I'm going to stay focused on a couple of areas. Let's imagine we have discovered some systems, and we need to take a decision now whether or not this is something that should be in or not. Are we going to use the system, or are we not using the system operationally? What I can do here, I can simply see all the information that that allows you to understand which employees have access to the system, including from which departments, if it's in use or not in use. But the point here for the webinar today is that I can ask a teammate to give me a review and really say, okay, are we using this system or not using the system? When I do that, basically, if I go now to the other side, you will see that now we have a role in the company called a reviewer. The reviewer is anyone in the organization, not necessarily a privacy professional that is from the business side. They have been assigned now with a task. The task is very simple. Victoria just asked us, or Kobi just asked, are we using customer.io? Is this something that we are using? This is the information I got from the My Discovery. If the answer is yes, I simply submit a response here, go back to the main page, and now I get a response. If we go now to the teammate feedback, we will see here customer and the response just received. So the idea is that it's a full collaboration tool across the organization. Can also be done for processing activities and data types. So let's imagine we ran some classification, identified the data types that are included, also identified the business logics and the processing activities that are included for this specific system. And now I can ask again for a feedback. I simply ask what type of feedback I want. I assign it to the reviewer. It can be anyone in the organization. I go back, and now the reviewer just was assigned with two more tasks. I can go in and give my ideas or my inputs about the business logic and what is used and what is not used. So basically, that's what we wanted to share today, how you can document your decision across the entire privacy program from start to finish, and everything is within the organization, making real collaboration across the org.
Thank you, Kobi. Amazing. And I love that fact that, you are in the app, you're collaborating in there. You don't have to go on and off, and let alone not even online and offline, as maybe a little bit of what Victoria was dealing with.
You have a log of all the history. If anything changed now, you have a new data type that was identified. Something happened, you can still go ahead and understand that what was the last time that someone approved this. Now I can send another run for approval of a vetting flow. Really depends on how the organization would like to collaborate on that.
Yeah, amazing. Victoria, any thoughts on everything you just saw?
I love it. I mean, I heard about this during our QBR, because that's the great thing about Mine is they've kind of told us, well, I know you don't have this yet, but it's coming, and this is something we're really excited about, to do as much in the Mine platform as possible, rather than, like I said, like now we were creating Slack channels, we were having emails, do you use this, do you use that. But to just have it all in one place just makes it so much easier.
Awesome. Good to hear. Very good. Well, thank you everybody, for your time today. Definitely, Victoria, we appreciate you, putting a word for us and your time today. Thank you so much. And everybody, we'll see you on the next webinar. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.